The sun is still high. It should not be hot in September, but Texas runs by its own rules. The air shimmers off the dirt in visible waves, bending into something liquid and unreal. And in the middle of that heat, 40,000 people are packed shoulder to shoulder across every hill, every ridge, every square foot of open ground for a quarter mile in every direction. They came from Dallas, from Waco, from Houston, from towns so small they don't even appear on maps. They rode trains so crowded that men climbed onto the roofs and held on with their hands, smiling the whole way because nothing was going to stop them from seeing the latest innovation in locomotive technology. 2 trains, 1 track, no brakes. A man named A.L. Streeter is at a railroad yard with a proposal no reasonable person would ever think to entertain. He is not by any means a railroad man. He has no engineering background, no formal business credentials, and at this particular moment, no money. What he does have is an idea, one crazy enough that it belongs exclusively to men who have never been told no in a way that stuck. The idea is this: 2 trains, started at opposite ends of a track, allowed to collide at full speed in front of a paying crowd. He's been pitching this to railroad companies in Illinois for months. All of them said no, but Ohio, it turns out, is more open-minded. The Cleveland, Canton, and Southern Railroad agrees to hear him out. 2 40-ton engines, 1 mile of separation, 60 miles an hour at impact. Streeter prints tickets, builds anticipation. He does not, however, secure the locomotives in writing. On the day of the scheduled crash, the railroad declines to hand them over. The engines sitting on the track belong to the company, and the company has decided at the last possible moment that they would prefer not to destroy them simply for the fun of the thing. Of the 8,000 people who showed up, fewer than 200 had purchased admission tickets. The rest watched for free from the surrounding woods. Streeter refunds the 200. He walks away broke, humiliated, and entirely undeterred. Less than a year later, Streeter gets his second chance. The Columbus and Hocking Valley Railroad has recently opened Buckeye Park, a leisure destination built almost entirely for the purpose of selling train tickets. They need an opening attraction, something that will fill their excursion trains and put the park's name in every paper in Ohio. They call Streeter. This time, everything is in writing. The locomotives are secured. The track is elevated for better viewing. Dummies are loaded into the cabs to heighten the spectacle, with the real engineers jumping clear at speed. A crowd of 30,000 people, some arriving by train, many by carriage, enough on foot that the Hocking Valley Railroad does not collect quite as much revenue as they'd hoped. None of that matters now. The crash itself is everything Streeter promised. The 2 engines meet at the calculated point. They move slowly, then pick up speed. Less than 2 minutes later, the spectacle happens. The collision is total. Iron and timber and steam compressed into a single, deafening instant. The crowd surges forward to climb the wreckage. One man, a passenger office clerk named T.P. Peck, catches a flying bolt to the leg and breaks a bone. He is promptly taken to the hospital and largely forgotten by the time the newspapers are printed. The event, though, is declared a triumph. Staged train crashes are now a viable form of mass entertainment. But the triumph goes far beyond Ohio, because over in Texas, a man named William George Crush is reading about all of this very carefully. Now, William George Crush is not a dramatic man. He is a general passenger agent for the Missouri-Kansas-Texas Railroad. Nicknamed the Katy Line, and his entire professional life has been built around the unglamorous work of putting people on trains. Schedules, ticket prices, excursion routes. He is good at his job precisely because he understands what people want before they know they want it. And what people want, he has now concluded, is to see a train wreck. By work of fate, the Katy Line is in a position of perfect opportunity. Over the previous year, the railroad has been systematically replacing its aging fleet of 30-ton steam engines with new, larger 60-ton models. The old engines have been quietly sitting in rail yards across Texas, sold off in batches to logging camps and gravel companies, but never fast enough. Dozens of them remain, heavy, functional, worth something to nobody in particular. Crush writes a proposal. He is calm and methodical about it, as he is about everything. 2 obsolete engines, a purpose-built track, free admission for spectators, with profit coming entirely from excursion train tickets. He frames it as a scientific demonstration. He does not call it a publicity stunt, though everyone in the room understands that that is exactly what it is. His superiors are skeptical, to say the least, but Crush is a very persuasive businessman. He knows money will talk, and he spent an hour presenting the profit percentages they would get just from the excursion tickets and the food and snack stands alone. His superiors agree, and he's put in charge of the entire operation. The location Crush selects sits 15 miles north of Waco, along the Katy's main line between Dallas and Houston. He doesn't announce the precise location for weeks, telling reporters only that it falls somewhere within a 30-mile stretch between Hillsboro and Waco. The mystery is deliberate. It keeps people talking. When the site is finally revealed, it's easy to understand why he chose it. The land forms a natural amphitheater. 3 low hills curving around a shallow valley like the bowl of a hand, with clear sight lines from every elevation. Standing at the top of any of those hills, a person could see the full length of the track below without obstruction. 4 miles of new rail are laid alongside the existing Katy Line, purpose-built and self-contained. At the ends of the line where the main track connects, the rails are pulled up entirely. It's an engineering decision driven by the single most catastrophic scenario Crush and his team have allowed themselves to think about: a runaway locomotive getting back onto the main network. A 40-ton engine with no driver and no brakes, loose on the live rail. It is one outcome nobody discusses in detail, and everyone is quietly working to prevent it. 500 workmen build an entirely new town in the Texas heat. 2 wells are drilled. Water pipes run uphill to a series of faucets spaced at intervals across the site. 5 tank cars of additional water are brought in by rail, along with several tons of ice. A grandstand rises for honored guests. 3 speaker platforms go up. A press stand is constructed within 100 yards of the track, closer than any civilian will be permitted. 2 telegraph offices are installed. A special rail depot is built with a platform 21 feet long, and above its entrance, a painted sign is raised. A restaurant occupies a circus tent borrowed from the Ringling Brothers. A full carnival midway takes shape beside it. Lemonade stands, medicine shows, game booths, cigar vendors, a bandstand. Politicians, never one to miss a crowd, arrange to give speeches. In early September, Crush sends the 2 chosen locomotives out on a tour of North Texas. Engine 999, freshly painted deep green with red trim. Engine 1001, red with green. They stop at Waco, Denison, and every town along the Katy Line. The mail coming into Crush's office becomes unmanageable. He hires 3 additional stenographers. It still isn't enough. Even Thomas Edison, reading about the event from New York, sends one of his photographers to Texas to document it. The Katy Line schedules over 30 special excursion trains, offering round-trip tickets from anywhere in Texas for $2 or $3.50 for the return journey. Seats sell. Then they sell again. People start buying standing room. William Crush looks at the numbers, and for the first time, He is optimistic. The day before the crash, Crush sits down with the Katy Line's engineers for one final conversation to discuss something they've held off on for months. The danger. A locomotive boiler is a pressure vessel. A large iron tank filled with water and heated by a coal fire burning at temperatures that would melt a lesser material. At operating pressure, the water inside is superheated. The steam it produces carries 140 pounds of pressure per square inch, channeled through valves and pistons to drive the wheels. But what happens when that container fails? In 1912, a locomotive boiler ruptured at a Southern Pacific roundhouse in San Antonio. The explosion leveled most of the buildings in the rail yard. 7 blocks away, a house was destroyed with the locomotive's front end, which had been thrown through the air. The blast killed an estimated 40 people. Crush knows this, so do the engineers. But they have one reassuring proof. The boilers on Engine 999 and Engine 1001 have been thoroughly inspected. They are built to resist rupture. The impact of the collision, while dramatic, will not generate enough force to breach the containment. They will hold. At least, they hope it will. The next day, the first trains arrive before the sun. They come from every direction on the Katy network, pulling into the new depot at Crush in the dark, dropping off passengers onto a fresh platform. By 7 in the morning, the population of the temporary town has already passed 10,000. By noon, it is 40,000. In a single morning, Crush, Texas has become the second largest city in the state. The midway is open. The Ringling Brothers tent is full. The lemonade stands run dry and are refilled. Politicians give speeches that nobody is listening to. A medicine show salesman hawks bottles of something brown to anyone who will slow down long enough to hear him out. And at both ends of the valley, the 2 engines are being repaired. The boilers are inspected one final time. The throttle linkages are checked. The 6 boxcars chained behind each engine are confirmed secure. The link and pin couplers of the era are notoriously unreliable, and a car that breaks free at speed becomes a projectile of its own. Speed tests are run during the morning. The exact point of anticipated collision is marked on the rail. Crush's team has done the math. At 45 miles per hour from opposite ends of the track, both trains arriving simultaneously, they should meet within a predictable range. Keyword: should. By mid-afternoon, the crowd is pressed so far forward that the scheduled 4 o'clock start cannot happen. 200 constables work the cordon, pushing people back. The grandstand is full. The hillsides are covered. Spectators have climbed trees. The press pit near the track holds photographers shoulder to shoulder, cameras on tripods already pointed at the anticipated collision point. The start is pushed back, then pushed back again. At 5 o'clock, the engines are brought to the center of the track for a photograph. The crowd roars at the sight of them together. Then each train is slowly walked back to its starting position, a mile and a half apart. William Crush rides out on his white horse. He is calm. He has planned this for 8 months. He has answered every question, anticipated every risk, managed every moving part of an operation that has filled a temporary city with 40,000 people on a Tuesday in September. His name is on every advertisement that has run in every paper in Texas since spring. His name is on the locomotives, in a sense, and on this valley, and on this afternoon. It's now or never. He raises his hat and gives the go signal. The throttles go to full. The engineers hold the trains there for exactly 4 turns of the drive wheels, feeling the iron beneath their boots begin to tremble with purpose, and then they jump. Both men hit the ground rolling, clear of the track, and the trains are alone. The speed builds. 20 miles an hour. 30. The ground vibrates. The sound moves ahead of the trains, reaching the crowd as a low, growing rumble that climbs through the body before the ears process it. 35 miles an hour. 40. On the hillside, the Confederate veteran, a man who has stood in smoke and noise and chaos, who has watched men die beside him in fields much worse than this, tightens his grip on the railing. The photographer in the press pit keeps his eye on the viewfinder. The woman near the grandstand has stopped moving entirely. 45 miles an hour, the sweet spot speed. The gap between the two engines closes from a quarter mile to 200 yards in the time it takes to draw a breath. Both whistles are screaming. 100 yards. The track torpedoes near the collision point fire in such rapid succession, they become indistinguishable from each other. The sound is a single, ongoing detonation. 50 yards. The front of engine 999 and the front of engine 1001 are pointed directly at each other. Both fireboxes are at full burn. Both boilers hold 140 pounds of pressure per square inch. The engineers said they should hold 10 yards. And then, the sky above the valley fills with iron. Pieces of engine 999 and engine 1001, fragments the size of a postage stamp to half of a driving wheel, are launched in every direction simultaneously. Small pieces moving faster than large ones, all of them arriving among 40,000 people in the span of a single second. A bolt strikes the photographer in the press pit directly in the face, taking his eye with it. Debris tears through the crowd on the near hillside. People fall. Others run without looking, colliding with each other, driven by the single impulse to be anywhere else but here. The carnage lasts less than 30 seconds. Then the last piece of debris lands somewhere out in the grass, and there is an aftermath. 2 people are dead. Dozens are injured, some severely. The grass around the collision point is covered in twisted iron and splintered wood. What remains of both engines is almost unrecognizable, flattened outward. The metal peeled back and folded down by a force that did not care about the engineer's plans. Crush watches from the back of his white horse, absolutely horrified at what he has done. By nightfall, the booths are folded. The circus tent is empty. The telegraph offices transmit their last dispatches. The special trains load what remains of the crowd and pull back into the network, and the sign above the depot is taken down. The town ceases to exist. William Crush is fired before the sun goes down. The Katy Line's management, facing the immediate reality of 2 deaths and dozens of injuries at an event they sanctioned, makes the calculation that someone must be held responsible, and Crush is the most available candidate. He is rehired the following morning. The newspapers are universal in their condemnation of the event. They are also extensive in their coverage of it, and the Katy Line's name appears in print from Texas to New York to even London. Several lawsuits are filed and settled quietly out of court, the railroad handing over modest cash payments and lifetime rail passes. The photographer who lost his eye receives damages eventually tallying $10,000, roughly $300,000 in today's currency. Railroad officials would later speculate that 2 engines colliding at 45 miles per hour produced an effective impact equivalent to a single train hitting a solid wall at 90. Whether that calculation is correct or not, no one can say for certain. No formal investigation is conducted, no charges are filed, no safety regulations are revised. Within weeks of the crash, other railroads begin planning similar events. Staged locomotive collisions remain a fixture of American fairs and festivals for the next 4 decades. 15 miles north of Waco, at the side of a road that runs through flat farm country, a historical marker stands in the grass. It is small, modest, easy to miss if you're not looking for it. It marks the site of Crush, Texas, a town that existed for one afternoon, was built for 40,000 people, and was gone by midnight. The track is long gone. The hills are the same hills. The grass grows where the engines met. 2 men died in a field in Texas because someone wanted to sell train tickets. 40,000 people watched, and every one of them, climbing back onto their excursion trains as the sun went down, had gotten exactly what they came for.